Have you ever had one of those days where you just feel completely unstoppable? You're just flowing from one thing to the next. And then you have those other days where even checking your email feels like climbing a mountain. What if I told you that the difference between those 2 days has absolutely nothing to do with luck or your mood or even your willpower? It's all about neurochemistry, and today we're going to learn how to take control of it. This right here, this idea is the key to everything. That feeling of being in the zone, it's not some random accident that you just have to hope for. It is the predictable result of a biological chain reaction. And the best part? You can be the one to light the fuse. In this explainer, we're going to show you a simple 3-step system to ignite this momentum spark and literally rewire your entire day in less than 10 minutes. So that's the big question, right? How do you actually do it? Well, the answer isn't about trying to find more motivation or just trying harder or using brute force to get through your procrastination. No, it's about understanding the Brill's fundamental operating system and using a very specific science-backed protocol to work with its programming, not against it. And we're going to break that whole thing down for you step by step. So here's our game plan. First, we're going to completely flip how you think about motivation with a motivation paradox. Then, we'll name the invisible enemy of productivity, something called the Inertia Trap, and look at the science that helps us break out of it. And finally, we'll get practical with the exact 3-step protocol you can start using today: the micro win, the dopamine anchor, and the 2-minute bridge. Okay, first things first. Before we can build anything new, we have to tear down an old, faulty belief, a lie we've all been sold about how to get things done. We're all taught to just wait. We wait for motivation to strike. We sit there staring at a blank screen or a messy garage, just hoping for some magical jolt of inspiration to show up and do the heavy lifting for us. But you know what? High performers know this is completely backward. I want you to let this idea really sink in because it changes everything. Motivation is not the cause of action. It is the effect of action. It's the neurochemical reward your brain gives you after you've already started moving. That feeling of wanting to do the work actually comes from the act of doing the work. That's the paradox. To feel motivated, you have to act without it first. The entire system we're about to build is based on this one powerful idea. Okay, so if we don't need motivation to get started, what's really stopping us? Well, I can tell you it's not a character flaw, it's not laziness, it's a neurological state, a very real, very powerful force I call the inertia trap. You know the feeling? It's like you're stuck in mud and every single task on your to-do list, big or small, just feels impossibly heavy. So let's define this thing on a chemical level. The inertia trap gets triggered by what we do or maybe what we don't do in the first few minutes of our day. These tiny little lost behaviors, things like hitting the snooze button, they send a failure signal to our brain. That releases cortisol, our main stress hormone, which then raises what neuroscientists call the activation energy for any task that comes next. You are literally, chemically, making your entire day harder before you've even gotten out of bed. And this slide, this breaks it down perfectly. Think about it. You hit the snooze button. Your very first decision of the day is to break a promise to yourself. You're telling your brain, I can't even handle waking up. What happens? Boom, cortisol spike. Then you grab your phone and start scrolling through stressful news or perfect-looking lives on social media. You're just flooding your brain with threats and comparisons, which jacks up that activation energy. And then you jump right into reactive emails, and your brain's emotional center, the limbic system, it just gets overwhelmed and starts vetoing any chance of you doing deep, focused work. You've lost the battle for your day before it's even started. But what if we could just reverse that entire process? What if, instead of starting our day with a cascade of these little micro-failures, we could intentionally start it with a guaranteed win? This is where the science gets really, really cool. There is a powerful biological principle that we can actually hijack to consciously reset our brain's chemistry for success. And this is the key to everything, the winner effect. It's a real, well-documented thing that scientists have seen across the animal kingdom, including in us. When you experience a success, and I mean any success, no matter how small, your brain releases a little pulse of the neurotransmitter dopamine. But here's the crucial part. It doesn't just feel good, it physically makes your dopamine receptors more sensitive. This change literally alters your perception. It lowers how hard the next challenge feels and makes you believe, yeah, I can probably do that too. And you can see how this just builds on itself, right? It's a powerful, positive feedback loop that we can actually engineer. So 1, you experience a small, intentional success. 2, your brain releases dopamine as a reward. 3, this makes your dopamine receptors more sensitive. And 4, because of that new sensitivity,
future challenges just seem less daunting, more achievable. This makes it way more likely you'll succeed again, which releases more dopamine, and the whole virtuous cycle just keeps on going. This is how you generate momentum out of thin air.
So, how do we kickstart this positive loop on purpose every single morning? Well, the very first step is the absolute foundation of this entire system, the micro win. And this is not about tackling your biggest, most important goal first. In fact, it's the exact opposite. It's about engineering a victory that is so small, so laughably simple, that it is basically impossible to fail. This right here, this is the only question you need to ask yourself. This is your test for designing the perfect micro win. We are not looking for something impressive. We're not even looking for something productive in the traditional sense. We are looking for an action that has a 100% chance of success. Why? Because we have to guarantee that first win signal to the brain to kick off the winner effect. So forget write the first chapter. Think smaller. Think open the document. The goal here is ruthless simplification. And here are some perfect examples. Making your bed takes, 60 seconds? And it immediately gives you a visible sign of order. Opening the specific document you need to work on, that eliminates the friction of that first click. Clearing just 5 icons from a messy desktop? It's simple, it has an endpoint, and it creates a little pocket of digital calm. Each one of these, when you finish it, sends a clean, clear signal to your brain. I did what I said I would do, I won. Now, this next step is subtle, but I promise you it is absolutely non-negotiable. This is the part almost everyone misses. You see, just completing the micro win isn't quite enough. To get the full neurochemical reward from the winner effect, you have to consciously signal to your brain that the task is done. You have to make the win register. And this critical step is the dopamine anchor. This is so important. Think about it. Our brains are processing thousands of things every second. If you just make your bed and then immediately start worrying about your day, that small victory gets completely lost in all that cognitive noise. You have to create a tiny, deliberate ritual that explicitly marks the moment of completion. This ritual is like the save button for the win. It makes sure it gets logged in your brain's reward system. It's the punctuation mark that tells your brain, okay, that's done, release the dopamine. So, how do we actually anchor the win? Well, the best anchors are physical and sensory. Research actually shows that the tactile sensation of a pen scratching an item off a paper to-do list is way more powerful for your brain than a silent, sterile digital click. A simple, firm verbal confirmation, like just saying done or check out loud, also works wonders. This deliberate anchor is what triggers dopamine priming, which makes that next, harder task on your list seem genuinely more attractive. All right, so you've got your micro win, you've used your dopamine anchor to lock in that reward. Your brain is now primed and ready. You are in a temporary, fragile, but very powerful state of what I call action readiness. This is the moment of truth. We have to immediately channel that momentum from that tiny little task to a task that actually matters. And this is our final step, the 2-minute bridge. You have a very short window to act here, and the protocol is strict for a reason. You must immediately, and I mean immediately, start working on your high priority task for exactly 2 minutes. Not 3, not 5, 120 seconds. So why so specific? Because that time limit is a psychological safety net. It's a promise to your brain that the commitment is tiny, it's manageable, and it's completely non-threatening. I mean, come on, anyone can do anything for 2 minutes. Hey, remember that limbic system veto we talked about earlier? This is how we bypass it completely. When you think about a huge task like write the quarterly report, your brain's ancient threat detection system can see it as a predator, and it triggers a fight or flight response, which leads to procrastination. But when you only commit to opening the report and writing for 2 minutes, the threat is so low that the veto is never even triggered. The barrier to entry just vanishes. And what almost always happens next is kind of magical. After 2 minutes, you're already in motion, and it feels way easier to just keep going. So let's put it all together. This is what the whole routine looks like in practice. It takes less than 5 minutes. First, you spend 60 seconds on your micro win, like making your bed. Then you take 10 seconds to physically cross make bed off a paper list. And then immediately, with no hesitation, you start a 2-minute timer and begin work on your hardest, most important task. This simple sequence doesn't just get one thing done, it structurally shifts your entire day from a negative stress react loop to a positive act succeed loop.
Okay, let's recap the whole thing one last time. It's super simple. Step 1, the micro win. Find an action so easy that skipping it feels more ridiculous than doing it. Step 2, the tactile acknowledge. Anchor that win with a physical action like crossing it off a list to make it register in your brain. And step 3, the 2-minute transfer. Use that burst of momentum to immediately work on a harder task for just 120 seconds. That's the whole system.
And that really is the ultimate takeaway here. You know, big results rarely come from these big, heroic efforts of willpower that just burn you out. They come from small, smart, high-probability starts that build on each other day after day. The momentum spark teaches us to stop waiting for the mood to work, and instead to work to create the mood. By mastering this simple system, you make focus and flow a certainty, not an accident. You make it effortless.